Thailand.
Welcome to our press launch for Silverstone. I am Wella, the marketing officer of Fine Upgrades. So today we're going to give you informations and in history about Silverstone, and also we would like to we'll be introducing to you our new lines of products. So first, I'll be giving you a brief history or introduction of Silverstone. So not all of you is familiar with Silverstone name or brand. So to give a brief history, Silverstone founded in 2003 an established leader in its field with an elite team of engineers, started their quest of providing products that create inspiration. They have since expanded the lines of products as well as types of products they produce, giving their customers a wide selection of choices. With distribution centers in different areas of the globe, Silverstone products can be seen all over the world, not just for computer users or enthusiasts, but also for home entertainment use. With their unending pursuit for the first-class aesthetic appeal, their teams of devoted engineers are constantly searching for the best technologies that suit end users with different needs and will make their products as technologically sound as they are beautiful. So firsthand, they were gonna introduce their new lines of products, and also we will be raffling up some items today. So guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the program.
And I really hope you guys will enjoy it. We have a lot of products to go over. So hopefully we have enough time later on today to have everyone interested in the VR setup that we have here to give it a try and see what the future of computing will be like. Okay, so let's start. For those of you that are familiar with Silverstone, here are some of the recent milestones that we've achieved last year and also this year. So some of the more interesting ones are, for example, the SFXL form factor that we introduced earlier last year. Also, a new case called the Mammoth MN01 that has a built-in HEPA filter. So that was the first time a computer case that has something like that air purifies your room. And also earlier this year, we introduced a new power supply, like the world's smallest titanium power supplies, for example. And also at the show, at the back there, we introduced a brand new series called the Primera series, PM01 chassis. It's very beautiful, so we'll go into details on this case a little bit later. So for case building, Silverstone, our engineering team and also our research team always have these 6 main points that they strive for when they are designing the cases. So they are cooling, structural rigidity, installation and cable management, silence, being stylish, and also have very good dust protection. So going into detail, we are one of the few case manufacturers that actually do month of thermal testing before we actually release the design of the case to the market. So the efforts of these research results is very evident since as far back as 2011. Okay, so these are the test data taken from a very popular British website called bedtech.net. They have one of the largest, the test data results for case cooling performance. So you can see since 2011, we've had always either the #1 or even the top 3 position for this, all of the cases on the market then. So in 2012, we actually had the top 5 spots of all the best cooling cases on the market then. Same thing in 2013, top 3. 2014, also top 2. And this year, they had a brand new test setup. So all the data are being retested again. So they only have a little bit of case. But again, even our latest entry-level Raven RVX01 was the #1 in cooling in this aspect. Okay, Second point, silence. So a lot of people think a silent case needs to be built up with a lot of foam to insulate the noise inside. But actually, building a silent case means that you need to have also very good cooling. So as you can see, we're able to build cases that are able to cool and be very quiet at the same time. So that's only possible if you have very good cooling in the first place. So again, here shows that we are one of the quietest case available if you have a very high-end system built in. And then this dust prevention. So this is something that's a little bit harder to test, but we've had feedbacks for many years from customers that are very happy to see that their case are spotless and clean after a few months of use or even a year after the use. So this is actually very rare to see in the marketplace. We also have very stylish designs that have won awards all over the world. And also structural rigidity that's been used to house cases in different places, as well as cable management. Okay, so here's a roadmap of our recent cases and also upcoming cases. So we'll go into detail on some of these. So the first product I'd like to go into talk about is our slim, small HTPC case called the ML06E and ML09. So these two cases are based off of the ML05 structure. So here's the specification. There's two different versions. So you can see the ML06E is based on the aluminum front panel, while the ML09 has a plastic and acrylic front panel. Okay. So what we did here is we rearranged the internals to support what we call the dual low-profile graphics card. So with this change, you can actually build a very good mid-range gaming system or home theater PC. Here's a slim 120mm fan that's included in both models with a multi-purpose drive bracket that lets you install either one 3.5-inch hard drive, two 2.5-inch drives, one slim optical drive, or a single 120mm fan. So it's very versatile. And the case is very small. It's as small as a Microsoft Xbox One. Okay, for a size that's, you can build a PC that's much more powerful than Xbox One in the same size. So that's very impressive for a PC. We also include vertical stand for these two models. So here you can see. And the front panel supports slim optical drive. So the ML06E supports a slim slot loading optical drive for a more seamless look, while the ML09 has a more versatile, flexible options where you can install either slim slot loading or tray loading optical drives. The next HTPC case we'd like to talk about in detail is our Grandia GD09, GD10. So these are full-size ATX-based HTPC case, so they're much larger than the ML09 case that I talked about. So you can see the internal is very open. It fits large ATX motherboards like the ones from ASUS ROG series. It also has a multi-purpose bracket or drive bracket that gives you lots of options for installing a 5.25-inch drive bay, 3.5 or 2.5-inch drives. We make sure to also utilize all the space inside available as efficiently as possible. So we even found room to add more drive options in this very compact case. So being an ATX motherboard-based case, we also make sure that it fits large graphics card at the same time. So you actually don't see a lot of these designs in cases this small. So this is very impressive. And we also make sure that the cooler support is good. So all of the retail box coolers will fit inside, and even some of the lower profile tower coolers can fit, such as our Silverstone's AR02, which is 134mm tall. So there are also optional rack mount handles. So you can actually install these into racks, home theater racks, for example. We even have customers that are building servers out of these. And the case is very strong. It has very good structural rigidity, so you can see that it can support the weight of a full-size television. And here's a comparison with other HTPC cases that we've had before. You can see the top two cases are micro ATX cases. The one on the bottom here, GD07, that's a full ATX case from the design that we have 5 years earlier. So the GD09, or GD10, is right here in the middle. So you can see that the external size is actually much more closer to micro ATX cases as opposed to a full ATX cases. So it's very impressive engineering in terms of layout. So for cooling, it has very good cooling as well. So it has two fans on the left side and also two fans on the right side for intake to generate positive pressure. We also make the fan filters very easily removable from the outside. Okay, and then cable management options are available inside with anti-vibration mounts for 3.5-inch drives. For the GD10, there's even a lock where you can lock the door. So if you have kids like myself, this is a very good option because it locks up the power button to prevent them from accidentally hitting it when you're using the PC. Okay, and finally, here's the specification for the GD09 and GD10. So they're based on the same body, but with two different front panel designs. So the GD09 has a plastic front panel, while the GD10 has an aluminum door that's lockable. Okay, and pretty much everything else is the same. Also, GD10 comes with 3 fans, standard, while the GD09 comes with 1. But you can also install the 2 remaining ones if you like. Okay, so here's one final look at the GD09 exploded view and GD10. Okay, very impressive ATX HTPC case. And the next case category is a small cube form factor. We're also Silverstone's well known for this type of design. So these are the two latest, one of the latest ones that we have recently released called the Sugo SG11 and SG12. So they're based off of our very award-winning design, SG01 and SG02, that we launched almost 10 years ago. But we made a lot of changes to the GD11 and 12 as an upgrade. So you can see the general layout of this case. The power supply sits on the back of the case, where the motherboard lays flat beneath it, with the expansion card plugged in vertically. There's also space in the front of the case lower right side of this illustration, where you can fit 9 2.5-inch drives and 120mm fan, and there's another 5.25-inch on the top right. So here's the front panel of the two designs. So both still have the 5.25-inch drive bay for you to do, for example, install optical drive or even hot swappable hard drives. So you can see the internal is quite open. It has utilization room for you to install graphics card up to 14.5 inches long. So that's basically any graphics card that you can buy on the market. Okay, and for extra cooling, there are two 80mm fan mounts on the top, so you can add additional cooling if you have a very, very hot graphics card. The case is designed with edgeless tooling edges on the side, so they're smooth. You won't cut your finger while assembling this case. It's designed to fit a very powerful low-profile cooler like our NT06 Pro. There's also a cross-flow fan optional that you can install into the back of the case. And for the SG12, we have an integrated front handlebar on the front aluminum panel for you to carry this around very easily. Okay, so that's it. So next, let's move on to the new case. This is maybe a little bit familiar. It's similar to what we had before. Here is the RVZ01. So we are coming out with the new RVZ01-E. E stands for evolution. So here's the specification table to show you the difference between the two. I'll go into detail here. So again, we did not sacrifice any of the graphics card room for this. So you can still install something like the GTX 980 graphics card like we do here, or the AMD R9 390X. So these are very long graphics card you can fit inside for you to make a very powerful VR gaming PC. They also fit water cooling, such as our TD03 Slim or our NT06 Pro. This is where the case is different from the original RVZ01. So now you can fit a full-size ATX power supply into a case this small, okay, without sacrifice to a graphics card. So that's really, really awesome. Okay, but there's still some limitations. You can install up to 150 millimeter deep power supply. So something like the Silverstone 750 watt here will still fit inside. So here's the front panel look of the two cases. So the newer version is on top, and this is the current version. So you can see because we need to fit the ATX power supply on the right side of the case here, so we have to move the USB from port to the left side. This eliminating, unfortunately, the slim optical drive. I'm just wondering how many of you guys are still using optical drive? Just curious on your PC. There's no one, so I guess this change is good, right? Okay, so here's the internal layout difference between the two. So again, this is where the ATX power supply is situated compared to the older case where the SFX power supply is located over here. So this central bracket is still the same, drive bracket. So originally this is designed to hold a slim optical drive on the side. But on the new case, because the USB ports moved to that side and we eliminated the slot, so there we give you the mounting holes to mount 2.5-inch drive. So you actually gain more 2.5-inch drive space on the new version of the case compared to the old one. Again, for this case, we'll include two of our Silverstone custom design slim 120 millimeter fans. We also include our magnetic fin filter, 3 of them inside the case. And if going by the bedtech.net's test data again, this original RVZ01 was the best mini ITX case that they have ever tested in terms of cooling performance for not only the CPU, but also the GPU. So we expect the new RVZ01E to be the same. So that's really good. Okay, so here's a completed assembled drive bracket with 2 SSD installed and a graphics card. So this card is really easy to assemble because we made this modular. So through a riser card and a drive bracket, so you will install this whole piece into the case. This case is also capable of accepting liquid coolers. Although it's not very easy to do, it's actually quite difficult because the case is really, really slim and small. But it is possible. It just takes a little bit of time. But we're showing that it is okay to do it if you like the challenge. Okay, moving on to tower cases. So this is also really exciting for us. It's an entry-level case by Silverstone standard. It's called the Redline Series RL05. So here's a brief specification. And here you can see the inside of the case. It has a very modern layout with a not very popular cover for the power supply and also the drives on the bottom. So it's got a styling that's a little bit like a sports car, a bit, with a red accent on the ring on the outside, front panel, and LED fans on the front panel to also light up. So the case comes with 2 140 millimeter fans. Usually cases in this level or price range come with 120. So this is a very big advantage. For additional cooling options, you can install one 120 millimeter fan to the back of the case and 2 more 120 or 140 millimeter fans on top of the case. So for liquid coolers, your options are also very, very wide, with the front panel able to support radiators up to 280 millimeter in size. There's also additional 180 millimeter fan slot on the bottom front of the case to provide additional cooling to your hard drives, if you like. It also is compatible with CPU coolers up to 165 millimeter. It's very tall. That fits all Silverstone air coolers. And the graphics card limitation is 375 millimeters. So that's basically also any graphics card you can buy on the market. For drive capacity, there's 2.5-inch drive mounts behind the drive tray, behind where the motherboard tray is. And also 2 more 3.5 or 2.5-inch drive mounts on the bottom front here. For power supply, you can install power supply with depth up to 220 millimeter. We also include filters. So there's filter on the top, on the front, and also on the bottom where the power supply sits. For front panel, here you can see a closer look. Power and reset with the LEDs on the left side. While there's 2 USB 3.0 Type A ports, audio microphone jack, and probably for the first time in a case of this level, we integrated the USB Type C into a case like this. Other notable features for this case are ventilated slot covers, large cutoff for motherboard tray, and also toolless 5.25-inch drive bay. For side window, we give a window as big as possible on the side so you can see everything. Okay, one of the disadvantages of having a window this big is that you need to do a very good cable management. Otherwise, it looks not so good, right? But there's good advantages and disadvantages to that. So here's a comparison with some of the other cases around the same level, such as ones from Corsair or Fractal Design or Thermaltake. As you can see, we're the only one with the Type C now integrated. So I hope you guys will like it. We also have it on display over there on the table. So the next, finally, last tower case that I'd like to talk about is a brand new series called the Primera series, PM01. So here are 2 models, BR and WA. So Primera is a Spanish word for first or first class. So our inspiration for building the Primera series was to design cases like supercars, okay? Your idea of supercars is that they're really fast, high performing, but they also look great, right? So Silverstone has been known to build very, very high performing cases, but we tend to design our cases with a bit more reserved styling, classic styling, not so extroverted. So that's why we created the Primera series for our designer to go a little further, to have that supercar look in computer cases. Okay, so that means it has to look good on the outside and also on the inside. So if you get a chance to see the case, you'll see that the inside is also very, very clean, very, very nice looking. So here's the specification. Again, it comes in black and white. So the black version, let me go back. So PM01BR, so B stands for black, R stands for red LEDs, okay? And W stands for white, A stands for ardent, it's azure, sorry, azure is a shade of blue, okay? So it's actually blue LED. Okay, so here it is, the interior. So you can see not only on the left side of the interior, but also behind the motherboard tray, it looks good as well. So here, this is how the case looks with the LED fully lit. So we integrated LED lighting inside the case as well as the front and also on the top. So you don't have to buy your own set of LEDs. Okay, again, also has a PSU and drive cover, as you saw earlier. We also made a cutout that's larger toward the front of the casing, where you can slide that cover back a little bit if you're going to be installing radiators inside the case. So that'll give you more room for the thicker radiators. So we did not skimp on the fans. So it comes fully equipped with 3 140 millimeter fans on the front and one more 140 millimeter fan on the rear side. So total of 4 140 millimeter fans. It's a great value. So you can also additionally accept up to 3 120 or 2 more 140 millimeter fans on the top. Lots of cooling options. For component compatibility, it can accept CPU coolers up to 180 millimeter tall. So that's basically any coolers you can find on the market. And graphics card or expansion card up to 425 millimeter long. Power supply supports up to 240 millimeters. And here's the drive option. So behind the motherboard tray area, you can see toward the front of the case, there are 3 2.5-inch drive mounts. On the bottom, there are 3. There's one single cage here with 3 3.5 or 2.5s. And additionally, we find more room here on the bottom floor to mount even more. 3.5, 2.5. So lots of drive options. And additional, there's 2 more here. So we didn't waste any space. Okay, this is a Silverstone way. For filter, dust prevention, we include a filter on the front panel and also one on the bottom. And details like this, rubber grommets on the pass-through holes are all included. We also give you a 1 to 10 fan hub controller with the LED control PCB on the top of the case, so you can switch between fully on, 50% brightness, the breathing mode, or the off. Okay, so if you need to go to sleep with the PC on in your room, you can turn that off easily. Okay, so that ends part 1 of the case introduction. Thank you. So let's move on to power supplies. So after cases, some of you may not know, we actually released power supplies almost at the same time when our company was founded, because power supply to us is a very integral part to a complete PC case design. To have good overall system performance, your power supply also needs to be very good. So I'd like to go over some of the things that we helped to promote and introduce into the power supply market, retail market. So back in 2003, if you can see, before we came along, Silverstone came along, a lot of retail power supply comes in very different colors. You know, you have purple, red, and whatnot. We thought, you know, for case design, you should have the power supply almost hidden away. You know, its job is to provide stable power, not to being loud inside the case. So we introduced black casing to power supply. It's a very simple concept. You think it's like normal now, but back then it wasn't. So now auto power supplies are usually black, okay, because of this. And we also heavily promoted the use of 120 millimeter fans in power supplies as well. Whereas before, lots of power supply use 80 millimeter fans, or even 2 or 3 of them inside a power supply, making them quite noisy. Right? They look impressive, but they're not. Also, before Silverstone, most people care mostly about wattage and prices. So we introduced a concept, which a lot of people in the server industry or workstation industry knows, is that you need to have stable power supply with very good voltage regulations. So that's what we did with ours. And now all the power supply you see on the market now, if they are trying to promote theirs, they also emphasize having good voltage regulations. So this is something that we introduced back in 2004. And in 2006, we found this certification called 80+. Okay, that's something that a lot of you should be very familiar with. But 80+ original intent was to certify systems an OEM power supply. It wasn't a mark designed for retail. But we thought this is a good way to help customers, retail customer, identify a good quality power supply. So we took it out upon ourselves and tried to push the 80 plus standard into the retail power supply market. So now 80 plus is practically the gold standard of the bar that you see with all power supplies today. And also back in 2006, we introduced the 100% modular cables to our power supply. So back then, there's modular cables as well, but they do it halfway. They figure, oh, you have to use 24 pin and 8 pin anyways, why make them modular, right? But we have other ideas. We make every cable modular because we understand, we build cases designs. We have small cases, we have big cases. Sometimes one size cable doesn't fit all. So for small power supply or small systems, you need to have shorter cables. So that's why we did that, right? And so we also introduced the concept of using single plus 12 volt rail for overclocking or high performance PCs. So that's now also a very popular feature that you see from other companies. So back in 2007, most high-end PC power supplies, they're advertising or promoting the concept of having dual, quad, or multiple rails. So we have very different ideas. And now, as you can see, we set the trend. And earlier I mentioned also in 2006, after the 100% modular cables were introduced, in 2009 we made a decision to unify the connector design of all Silverstone power supply back then. So that means if you buy a Silverstone power supply and decide to upgrade later, all the cables that you took so much time to manage, cable managing inside your case, you can leave them there as it is and just place the new power supply into your case and reuse the same cables. So this used to be a problem also with other companies such as Corsair. They may have the AX series with one connector standard, HX, RM, they're all different. So you have to understand which one is which. So we completely eliminated that problem. And I believe some of the companies now, even Corsair, they're following our footstep in doing that as well, unifying all the cables to one standard. So in 2010, we also introduced SFX to the retail market. Back then, SFX are just mostly for very small system and OEMs. And more recently, we started the trend of downsizing all of our power supplies, including ATX ones. So you can see, as we add more features like modular cables, we add more filtering ability, better regulation, more wattage, we're making power supplies bigger, bigger, and bigger. But because, we're case designers, we find that every time we try to design a new case, we always have to think about how much room you need to give power supply. For smaller cases like this, it's just too much work to worry about. So we decided to take this matter into our own hands and start designing power supply to be smaller, even on the ATX ones, so that in the future, we can use more of those power supply inside smaller cases like this, which is a good trend, I think, in terms of downsizing, because CPUs and graphics cards are becoming more power efficient as well. And people like to have the ability to use their ATX power supplies in more and more of their cases. Okay, so that's a little bit of history of Silverstone power supplies. So let's go over to the current lineup. So I'll go over a little bit. On the very high end, the Strider series, the mainstream model, we have the titaniums coming in Q3 for the higher wattage, while 600 watt, 700 watt, 800 watt available now. Then next level down, we have the Platinum series. We just also launched 3 of these models, and more will be coming soon. There's the Gold series and Plus series. These are silver and also bronze. And then we have the Essential series. This is a series for people that need good power supply, but they don't need all the extra modular cable features. So these are really good price to performance ratio. We have 3 lines, Strider Essential Gold, Bronze, and also 230 volt versions. We recently postponed, unfortunately for those of you that follow Silverstone, a Zeus series. with digital control. For Niagara series, this is our fanless power supply series. We have a 520 watt now with the 400 watt phasing out and a 550 watt coming soon. Gemini series is our redundant power supplies. Now we're expanding the SFX power supply series to include also a new SX550 that's launching now, and also coming Q3, 500 watt and 650 watt variations. We also have SFXL series here. They're coming. So total of 5 SFXL coming later this year. So going into detail, Strider Platinum series. It has all of the features that you're familiar with the Silverstone enthusiastic line. Things such as small design that I talked about. We make the power supply 140 millimeter deep. So this is the smaller, these are the smallest 80 plus platinum power supplies with 4 modular cables that you can get on the market today. 80 plus platinum efficiency, with plus or minus 3% regulation for very stable performance. It has a semi-finless function. So anytime you have loading below 20%, for example, you're browsing the web or just editing your documents, the power supply fan will stop because it's not doing that much work. And it's also very efficient. But once you fire up a game or run any critical applications, the fan will spin up and cool itself. So it's very intelligent. For modular cables, we include flat modular cables. So you can also see it's much more easier to cable manage compared to some of the fancy looking rounded cables. So lastly, let's look at a specification for the 750 watt power supply. So 650 and 550. Okay. Next, titanium power supply. So if you want to look at some of the specification, you should be able to find it in your information packet that you received at the front desk. So I'll go over these really quickly. So for the titanium series, we made the power supply as short as possible. So whereas the platinum, we made it down to 140, we actually made the titanium up to 150 millimeters. Okay, so that's very hard to do for those of you that don't know. Right now, all of the titanium power supply on the market now are over 200 millimeter deep. So this is a very big achievement. So here's the titanium power efficiency curve and a comparison table between different 80 plus certifications. As you can see, titanium is much tougher test for power supplies because the ECOVAR organization, the ones that do the 80 plus testing, they implemented a new test that requires the power supply to be 90% efficient at 10% loading. So this is not tested on any other 80 plus level. So it's a very tough test. That's why you don't see this on the market a lot. And because of the very high requirement at the 10% loading, we had to remove the semi-finless feature from it because that controller sucks up 2 watts of power. And that very low wattage, 10% level, 2 watt is the difference between a platinum and a titanium. Okay, so again, plus or minus 3% regulation with flat cables included. So that's compatible with our short cable kit for small form factor PCs. Here are the specifications. So they can all max out to a peak 50 watt more than their continuous rated power. And later on, we will also have 1500 watt titanium. So 1500 watt is a lot of power, but we will still manage, our engineers still manage to shrink it down to 180 millimeter. So to give you an idea, all of the 1500 watt power supply in the market now, they are 220 millimeter deep or longer. So this is also a very tough engineering achievement to do. So you can see the comparison with other similar power supply on the market. We have much denser area. So you can see 646 watt per liter compared to around 500 watt on the competitors. So again, titanium efficiency curve, 3% plus minus regulation with the fan speed curve that's very quiet all the way up to full load. Flat cables, again, also compatible with our short cable kit if you want to use it in a small system. So here's the final specification. You can see it's continuously rated for 1500 watt with a peak power of 1600 watt. Very powerful. Okay, moving on to SFX. So this is our newest SFX power supply. Here's the dimensions. It's very small. It's about half the size of a standard ATX power supply. So if you compare the power density of this power supply, we had a very impressive 1500 watt that I just showed you with 647 watt per liter. But a small 550 watt SFX is actually denser in power than the bigger ones at 696 watt per liter. Okay, 80 plus gold, I'll go again, plus or minus 3%. And here's the fan speed curve for the power supply. So here's the specification table. All right. Last power supply to talk about is SFXL power supply. So here's the difference between SFXL in the middle compared to standard SFX and a very small ATX power supply. So it's sort of in between. It has the mounting holes for SFX, so it's just as tall and just as wide, but a little bit longer. The reason we did this is we want to install a 120 millimeter fan as opposed to an 80 millimeter fan in the standard size. So here's the dimensions, platinum efficiency, regulation, 3% again. And incredibly, we actually implemented a semi-fitness control into this power supply. So you can expect this power supply to be very, very quiet as well. With flat cables included. Again, short cable kit. All right, specification. So a perfect power supply for lots of small systems like this and a lot of our small form factor cases. Okay, so that's good. We're probably running out of time a little bit, so I'll just jump through a lot of these cooling products. So we have low-profile coolers coming, designed for small systems, even for server use. Liquid coolers, we have a sample, the world's first all-in-one liquid cooler with integrated pump into the radiator. That's very cool. We will have two different versions of that cooler. We also have a 180 millimeter radiator on display, all in one. So we'd like your feedback on that, on whether we should release it or not. So we also have 140 millimeter ones coming. For storage and accessories, we have lots of server storage cases, also adapters for them. So here's just some of the things I show you what we do. We do lots of industrial stuff too. Storage cases. So again, you can look at these in detail on the files that we've giving you, either on USB or in the CD. Okay, this one's interesting. It's a military grade IP65 external enclosure. So it's anti-fungal, it's resistant for thermal, drop, shock, humidity, sand, dust, everything. So if you have important data, that would be a good one to get. So more adapters. And we're going to lifestyle. So not just PC only. We have mobile devices as well, accessories like these. USB card. A lot of you probably don't know, Silverstone was the first company to sell a expansion card 4 years ago with USB 3.0 internal header. So we're again doing it with a 3.1. So with this new ECU04 card, you can upgrade your existing USB 3.0 ports on your case to 3.1. Okay, but the condition is that the cable and the port in your case has to be very good quality. Okay, so that's basically our Silverstone cases. All right. Okay, again, more USB cards. We also have these really cool reversible connector for your mobile phones or mobile devices, even for iPhone. Okay, so it's even M5 certified. We are planning on launching different versions with longer cables, thicker cables. Okay, back to PC parts again. We have front panel storage coming, like these. Even car charger, backup vehicle battery to jumpstart your car or charge your mobile devices on one package. And we've also worked with I don't know if, are you guys familiar with Linus Tech Tip? Any of you? No? It's a very famous Canadian YouTuber. They crowdsourced design to build our second generation headphone holder for wall mount. So this is coming as well. Okay, so that's all the product presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.
And don't forget, guys, you can check out our episodes at our website, mytechisland.com, our YouTube channel, MyTech Island, on Y101 FM TV via y101fm.com, and on MyTV on Sky Cable Channel 30.